Wacko, what is the meaning of the word procrastination?
I'll tell you tomorrow.
Welcome, everybody, to Blerdlines. This is your man, Cam. With me, as always, is
Big Josh.
As well as...
It is the professor. Hello, everybody.
And we are here being blackety black, reviewing Ironheart on Disney. It recently just dropped all the episodes. Now there was 6 in total. And it was an interesting lead up to it because one thing that the Black nerd community was kind of like, yo, we didn't get that much. We barely got a trailer maybe 3 weeks ahead. We barely got, posters for it. It was just pretty weak. And knowing how Marvel does rollouts, and we all see this just from a visual standpoint, when they really go for something, they have a full on, PR rollout. And this promo rollout was atrocious, like straight up. It was not good. And closer to the date of its first drop, it got a little bit better, but leading up to it, it was almost like a forgotten type of thing. And it was a little sad to see that because I was kind of like, man, it's almost like they're not even giving it a chance. And then it had a little bit of a pre-scandal with review bombing on Rotten Tomatoes. Thanks all the nerdy racist white boys. And so much to the point that Rotten Tomatoes actually had to shut that shit down just because it was getting too stupid. Like an episode hadn't even dropped and it already had like 100, like one tomato ratings or some stupid shit like that. So with all that going against it, from a personal level, I watched it. I was like, hey man, we'll see what happens. And I watched the 6 episodes and I was like, oh, it's not that bad. All right, we here. This is cool. Black people being black in Chicago, like in the MCU. Okay, let's see what we can do. So what we're gonna do is we'll start with the positives of things that are kind of our positives, takeaways from it after the 6 episodes, and then we'll kind of go with our quibbles like we always do. As you guys know, we love to quibble. But we also want to tap a little bit on also the cultural relevance aspect of it as well. So I'll start with the positive stuff and pass it on to like D. What was your positive takeaways from Ironheart?
Well, starting with the positive. Okay, I'll play. No, it was a solid story because I didn't have any expectations. Solid 6 episodes. I think my biggest positive is that it functioned like a serial drama that typically the Marvel, Disney, Star Wars stuff doesn't really fall into that category that well, even though that's what they're doing, serial dramas. But this had a steady, I'd say simple narrative that was straightforward. And I think it worked for a character that is very not that well known in the grander scheme of Marvel. The performances from the actors were really good. Dominique Thorne, who portrays Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. You can tell that she was excited about being in the lead. She really stepped forward and moved out in front and commanded the screen, even when she was on camera with some of the more veteran actors and performers and character actors that we've seen over the last 20 or 30 years. And there was quite a few of them that popped up. But her supporting cast is really good, well-rounded, not too many people. And her best friend, I think who's played by Lyric Ross, she's did a really good job at complementing the emotional side for what her character served, which was more of an emotional buffer or anchor tether for Riri to her reality and her traumas and the things that she doesn't, I guess, particularly want the world to know. But for the most part, that relationship works out really well as a second. And it's different than the Peter and Ned relationship because it starts from a place of deep hurt and that the friend has died. And, now Riri is, through her genius, brought her back as this AI. Spoiler alert. I suppose I should have said spoiler alert first and then did the spoiler, but that's okay.
We're reckless here. It don't matter.
Yeah,
Go for it.
what Josh just said. But those were my positives. I think the performance, the cast, and the way that they all kind of really fell into the role. Anthony Ramos as Hood, for what he was given to work with. More on that later. And Thorne, she really stepped up and she commanded a presence. And that serial setup, the 6 episodes, it worked for them. It's interesting that this is sort of a mini series, and that's it in terms of right now. They don't have any plans for her any more solo stuff. But yeah, I would say for me, it was mainly those things. It was a more solid story. It wasn't too complex. The actors and the performers were really good. They got the message. They stepped up, specifically Thorne and Alden. I think you pronounce his name Ehrenreich, or AKA Ezekiel Stain, and formerly known as Han Solo, young Han Solo. So he did a really good job. And to be honest, I would have rather it been focused more around their relationship and him stepping out as the villain than what we got with Hood and that story. But those are my positives.
Yeah, exactly. I think that I enjoyed Han Solo and that connection with him and Riri a lot in the story. And like you said, like it felt like a TV series, and Marvel's been having problems trying to do serialized stories. And like I think they actually did a pretty good job with this. It kind of gave me shades of like Miss Marvel, which was hitting that same demographic of like late teens, early 20s type of like realm of like, girl power and all that kind of stuff. And it was done in a way that actually worked where you're like, you would believe it. And I think like the cast did a good job of kind of coming together around that, which was actually pretty dope. I like that the one I know Riri from the comics, and one of my things for a lot of the new characters when it comes into Marvel, especially when it comes to Black characters, they don't really have any good like villains that they can kind of play off of. They're usually doing like C-level, Spider-Man villains or D-level Iron Man villains. And so in this one, I like that her recklessness actually not created, but the 2 villains basically hated her because of her recklessness. So it was an actual direct connection to it. So it was like, oh, Han Solo was like, yo, don't do this one thing or I'm not going to be able to be cool with you. And she did that one thing. And he was like, bitch. And so I like that, at least at that, it's like, this is a true villain. I do not like you because you wronged me, kind of a thing. And I think that's one part that Marvel has a problem with in a lot of their shows in terms of like that aspect of it. But I like that aspect of that. And movies as well. And I liked it. And like you said, I like the cast a lot. Like they did a really good job with the whole casting in it. Magic stuff, we'll talk about that later. But the introduction of Zelma.
My favorite was the actor that played Clown. she really had me laughing the whole time. It was really good fun to watch her on screen doing her thing.
I was about to say that, like the Ocean's 11 crew that they put together.
Yes.
At first, I was like, all right, who are these random nameless people? But to their credit, each actor gave a little bit of a twist to at least make them memorable. And so they could have easily just been like the nameless crew. But I actually like curious, like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen to this person and this person. And like I actually knew their names. And another show that we often talk about, Star Trek Discovery, everybody on the bridge, I ain't know those dudes' names. Black dude number 2, cyborg girl, da-da-da-da-da. But like in this one, I was like, oh, Clown's hilarious. The twins are fun. I actually cared about what was going on with the crew. And that was actually kind of cool. They gave them enough that each one was at least specific enough and memorable enough that you actually cared about what would happen to them after, and I think they did a good job of doing that in terms of like casting and at least giving them something to do, which is really cool. I did like the actress that played Natalie. I thought she did a really good job. And she of that kind of balancing of kind of reminding Riri of like her kind of quote unquote roots and keeping her grounded, I think. And I thought the setting of Chicago was actually kind of cool to put it because you don't really have that much stuff in Chicago. And that was an interesting thing. I think they could have done more with that, but like that's something that that was actually pretty cool. Josh, what was your positives?
I thought it was overall pretty solid. It was a heartfelt story. I think Dominique Thorne as the lead made you feel what she was going through. all the different changes she was going through emotionally with the loss of a stepfather, the loss of her friend Natalie before she, even the disbelief and almost not wanting her there when she returned as the AI for her suit. It all made sense. Her reactions to it made sense. The characters' reactions made sense as things about what's going on with Riri sort of revealed themselves, or she revealed them to the characters around her. Like Dominic Thorne was an awesome lead. The actress and the whole cast across the board, like you guys said, they all did a brilliant job of bouncing off of each other and bouncing off of Dominic Thorne and the ways in which she presented to each character, which wasn't the same, which I thought was great because usually, it's everybody's reacting to the one thing the character's doing. The dude that she has a crush on, it was one thing, and then which happened to be Natalie's sister, which was a whole other thing, and then the way that she reacted to her mom versus Zelma versus Hood and the heist crew. I thought they were pretty good. And then the heist crew by themselves, each character was very dynamic. You got a sense that they were all individuals and they helped each, like any good heist movie or TV show. Each character had a thing that they did that contributed to the heist. So they weren't just one note. They weren't just one dimensional. They also had their own personality, their own personal personality traits. Slug presented one way, the pyrotechnic nut job presented another way. Even the little kid with the cart presented differently. Like he had a personality and he had things about him that made him interesting and made him different from everybody else, and not just precocious kid number 5 in the TV show. I thought it was reasonably well written. Minor quibbles that we'll get into later, but nothing that took me out of it completely. And I would say, the overall decent story. It was fun. It had a bunch of good laughs. It was very heartfelt. The action was good. I thought the CGI, the CGI was very good. It's better than most of the other television shows and some of the movies that Marvel has done. They really put a lot of effort into making sure that part of the problem, and, I blame Cam for enhancing my design eye, but part of the problem with a lot of Marvel stuff, even, it's one thing if the trailer's not finished, if you don't have final res CGI for the things that are CGI in the trailer, that's passable. People wig out about that. I'm not one of those people. It's another thing if how it looks in the trailer is how it looks in the movie. And that's been a problem that has plagued Marvel. A lot of their final res graphics have shown up looking not finished. And Ironheart was not that. It looked very finished. I would be curious to see what the design process was and what differentiated this from the other things that they've done. But there is a massive difference. There's a sizable difference in how it looks. And that contributed to the feel of it. But yeah, like I say, I enjoyed. It was fun. It was well done for the most part, reasonably done. I'd look forward. I'd watch season 2.
And I think that was the thing that I actually enjoyed overall. I was like, when I watched it, I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, unlike a lot of the other Marvel stuff that's been coming out in these last 2 iterations, it felt like a series. It actually was like interesting. It established some type of a world. And like I said, I enjoyed that. Like my main things from the comic books, and this is kind of a Marvel thing in general, but like for both Ironheart and Miles, one of their 2 problems is like they just had no good villains, and they had no compelling villains or anything like that. And at the very least, like I said earlier, they at least like both of these villains had reasons to not like the hero, and so they had to or the protagonist, and so at least that gave them some type of footing. Where in the comics, the one thing about Ironheart's comic in general, they're just none of her villains are really compelling, and they're all that was the one thing that it took Miles probably a good 10 to 15 years until they finally established his own kind of rogues gallery, if you want to say, that would help the character be a better character. And I think in Ironheart in the comics, I would say the only really good moment I would say with the villain and hers is when she was on the Champions team, which is a bunch of young heroes, and they go up against Thanos because they think they are whatever. And Thanos is like, why are mosquitoes talking to me? And Thanos commits to smacking all of them. And then when she goes up to him thinking that she's some hot shit with her suit, he literally grabs her by the neck, shakes her suit off. Doesn't even use any projection. He just grabs it and literally shakes it so that her whole suit disintegrates. And he's like, child, come back when you're actually when you're grown. And what was cool about that was they reverberated that meeting of her with Thanos for the next 6 issues. And then she wouldn't come out of her room because she was really shook from it. And so what she ended up doing was making a better suit so that if she ever fought Thanos again, she could be at that level. But that was her obstacle to finally knock her off a peg. And I think and that was in the comics, that was one of the best parts, where I think now we can get to the negatives. But and I think in this, she had very specific points in the show where she did something reckless, and then that resulted into someone not liking her or wanting something ill to her.
Real quick question before we pivot to the bad. Having read the books, I've read a little bit. I've read more Champions than I did Ironheart, but having read Ironheart most of the way through, would you say that it translated well from the book to the screen?
Yeah, I think they did a pretty good job. I think the one part, and this kind of goes to a negative that we and Dee were talking about a little bit earlier before we hopped on, was that in the show, we didn't see her be an actual hero. She didn't go and do something altruistic. She a lot of her motivations were for herself. I need to get money so I can do my suit. I need to make a better suit to prove everybody wrong, that kind of a thing. But you didn't see her save a kitten. She didn't go to a trap house and beat up a bunch of gangsters. She didn't do any one small thing that if this is Superman saves a kitty in a tree, gives it back to the kid, and then flies off to go to the out into space to fight Darkseid. You don't see her do a typical hero thing. And so because of that, it kind of gives her this tinge of arrogance and almost she's not again, she's the protagonist, but I didn't really feel like she was a hero. And it kind of showed it a little bit closer to the end, but I would say that was the one thing that I saw that didn't really translate from the comics into the show. The other part of it of, Black Girl Magic, her being super smart, you can't tell me nothing type of thing. Yeah, all that stuff played really well. And I think that the one thing that Bendis was saying when he created her, because he's a white dude, he's married to a Black woman, he has 3 adopted daughters, and one of his things that he wanted to create with this character, he's like, I wanted to create something that my daughters would identify with and really like about it. So he's like, I wanted to make her smart, I wanted to make her sassy, I wanted to make her independent, and I was like, that was his main driving force of trying to make this character. And I think they did a really good job of showing that on screen. And then I think the part that they could have worked on was about a little bit more of the layering and that kind of aspect of it. So I thought they did a good job of translating the comic to the screen, but I think that they could have done a little bit better on the actual hero part, where I think a lot of her motivations through all 6 episodes were very selfish or self-imposed or for more herself. And then I didn't see, self-driven. And then, I mean, closer to the end, but usually in the hero's journey, you see the arrogant person gets knocked down a peg, and then that makes them do something that was outside of their normal realm, right? They do something to help others, and that aspect of it. With great power comes great responsibility, blah, 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 blah. And I think there was a couple moments like that in the show, but I didn't feel like there was that turning point moment yet. And
there comes a moment in most cases. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, the last thing I'd piggyback on the CG. The budget that they had for the show, they did a really good job of really utilizing the budget well. because all the suit stuff looked amazing. Like all 3 iterations of the suits, all the hair getting in and out of it, and even playing around with why. Yeah, it takes off in landings when she gets out of the suit and then the suit's moving with her. Like there was just a lot of good moments where I'm like, dude, they did a really good job where they got a proper budget. And I'm glad that Marvel at the very least didn't skimp on them for the budget to do that, because all the suit pieces look amazing. Like that, all that shit was great. And like they did a really good job of keeping that.
So do you not feel like, quick question. Do you not feel like her turning point where she decided, and this is to both of you, where she realized, okay, you know what? I know I wanted the money for the suit, but these guys are doing bad things and hurting people and killing people now. So, all right, cool. It was one thing when we were just doing a little heist joint, but now it's turning into murder. And she turns on them and tries to take them on. Do you not feel like that was sort of their moral event horizon for her? Where she's like, you know what? I'm not messing with y'all no more.
Yeah.
Well, like, it wouldn't be a moral.
Go ahead, G.
I was going to say, it's not a moral event horizon. That would be the opposite thing, in which she commits something that is unforgivable, an act that's unforgivable. But I think
not moral event horizon. Yeah, I used the wrong term. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. That doesn't rise to what I think Cam is talking about, which is she comes to that realization. She stops working with them, but she doesn't exactly move to stop them for the reasons of just they need to be stopped.
Because it's right.
Right.
Okay.
It becomes more tied to the fact that Hood now wants to kill her. And obviously he would also come at her family. So that's why she's trying to immediately get her mother out of there before she decides to fight. And her decision to fight is again tied to survival, not
all her actions throughout are self-preservation driven. Okay,
they're self-preservation driven. So that would have been the moment. That should have been the moment in the writing in which she declared. But the reason I think that it couldn't be is because what is Hood's motivation that gives her a reason to stand against him that's tied to a greater threat that might threaten Chicago at whole or her neighborhood at whole? For the most part, all he was doing was trying to get at his father. And there wasn't anything that his father that they revealed that his father was tied to that was greater scope or stakes that require a superhero to take them down. There was a lot of things, there's a lot of room for stuff they could do.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, it didn't feel like there was a big bad. Like, there was little bads, but there wasn't like a big bad. And like, I think for her, like kind of like what Dee said, like, that's why I was like, I use the example of like, as generic as it is, but she's in Chicago, right? Her best friend and her stepfather got killed by gang violence. But in no part in that show that at one point did she go to the South Side, stop a gang violence thing because she wanted to protect others that's not herself. So even that small little thing would have shown like, oh, now I've turned the leaf of being a hero. But like most of the show is just her saying, I want to do this thing to do for me. Like, I want to make money so I can get my suit better. I want to make my suit better so I can prove all the MIT people wrong. I want to do, and then at the end, you're right. She starts to like, okay, these guys are bad. They're doing bad things. I should probably do something about it. But it didn't have that tinge of like, great power gives great responsibility. It was more just kind of like, oh, I have people to protect now, which again is a altruistic thing. But is it purely the hero aspect of it? And
well, even beyond that, we're talking superhero. We're talking superheroes. Hero, they can do the things that a normal hero, like a cop or a firefighter, can't do in the same way. And I'm saying that in the sort of a general. I'm not saying that all cops or firefighters are heroes.
Yeah.
So, if I'm writing this, if I'm penning this, why can't we do a scene where, again, with that in mind, her father and her stepfather and her best friend died to gang violence? We don't have to repeat the same cycles of showing someone busting into a community and beating up, punk kids. She's got the ability to find out who is the top boss and go right to him, and nobody can stop him. Because and we've seen Tony Stark do that, right? When Tony Stark in Iron Man, he flew right to the 10 rings and shut them down when they had the weapons. So that was missing. And that's the thing that separates the superhero from the run-of-the-mill hero. The superhero has the power to make these ultimate changes and do it the right way. And there should have been a moment where that clicked or someone brought Riri along to see that. We got that she was manipulative, but we don't get the other side of that. Okay, you're telling us all the reasons we should not root for Riri, but and then you gave me a few reasons to root for her, but she has a more epic journey. So we got to start building towards that, in which, that's why I wasn't so sure about the end, because I think if this had been season 3 or she's gone through some stuff and then she decides to take on that deal and now she's compromising who she really is, it would have meant a little bit more. We haven't seen her grow beyond this selfish point of manipulating people, of putting a greater scope of individuals beyond her own selfish needs. And now she sold her soul or something of that regard. So, the writing, I always come back to it. It's just those little pieces.
And I think, and I actually forgot to add the again, this is already spoilers out, but yeah, another positive was Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto. I thought he did a great job. It felt good. The way he was subtle with it. He was menacing when he needed to be menacing. He was funny when he needed to be funny. And
really good. Really good.
I wish I had a third thumb.
That was amazing, because that showed, and then because he had that ability as an actor, this is someone who is beyond my understanding. Like, they can go in between the accurate acts, like using these accents like they used them for 20, 30, 40 years of living,
millennia,
and go between them. Yeah. So it just showed how, this individual is much more powerful than anybody who's dealing with him understands.
I peeped it immediately. And I like that. The nose is what gave it away. I was like, that's Mephisto. Yeah. There's no way it's not Mephisto. There's no way. Like, I didn't know that they were I'd heard rumors that they were casting him. I completely, it's rumors. So,
it had been scuttlebutt for a while that he was being eyed for that role specifically. Mephisto.
In one ear, out the other. I didn't even, I until I saw it, I wasn't really gonna accept that was or ingest that was what was happening. So I'd completely forgotten about it. And as soon as I saw him, I was like, I know exactly who this is. The nose gave it away. Yeah. It's the nose and the hair. Immediately.
And I like the fake out with the Dormammu too.
The cloak. The cloak was the dead giveaway.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that they used the fake out with Dormammu as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that they did, and then the payoff of him when she was like, "Wait, aren't you blah blah blah?" And he was like, first of all, this levels to this shit. This dude is here. I am here." And I thought that was cool great. To at least to expand that level of like
that dude works for me.
Exactly.
Like, what are you talking about?
And me and D were talking about magic and Marvel, and it's always horrible. But the one thing that I did like, I like that they showed that aspect of it. Of there's levels to this, and this character right here is leaps above. So like him, if she would have brought up if she would have brought up Doctor Strange, he probably would have laughed, and that would have been the funniest part because he wouldn't have to say anything. He was just like, Doctor Strange. But I like that they had
Strange also defeated Dormammu.
True.
So, and in a very embarrassing way. So that could be, it's clear that they're name dropping Dormammu because there was also that rumor that Denzel Washington has been cast as Dormammu for the third Doctor Strange film. I think that's all, but I don't know how confirmed it is, but I'm pretty sure
that would be an interesting bit of casting.
Yeah, it's a rumor mill, and
strong rumor.
And so to get to that part, right? Like we're all in agreement that Marvel Magic and Marvel, it's not the strong suit. But the one thing that was interesting is the Zelma character, and Zelma in the comics is actually pretty cool. Like she's introduced in Doctor Strange. She's introduced as like a character that's having headaches, goes to Doctor Strange saying, "Hey, I'm having these headaches. I think they're magical in nature. Can you help me out?" And essentially, she has all these like crazy ass spirits in her in her brain, essentially. And it's funny because they even make the beanie part of her whole thing. Basically, it's helping her keep those like spirits away, basically, which is kind of cool. So her introduction into all of this was actually kind of interesting.
And they hinted at that. It seemed like they hinted at it a little bit.
Yeah, and so I thought that like that was a cool case to kind of bring in that character. I think I would have liked it more if she was like actual childhood friends. There's a little bit more connection to it because it was very just out of the blue. Like if in the first episode she sees Zelma and they're having a conversation, like they know each other, then it would pay off later on when she goes back to that candy store and then kind of like, because again, science and magic, we always know it's oil and water, but it's more oil and water more because she's arrogant, not because she actually believes, right? She doesn't believe magic, And Iron Man's another one. He doesn't believe magic, but he's seen it for real. And he's like, oh, I don't believe it, but I know that's just real.
But it's also one of the things that I liked about
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
One of the things that I enjoyed about that. Well, first and foremost, I am a lifelong 40-year long and running fan of everything Kree Summer. So seeing her on screen was like, oh, okay, cool. Just be cool. She's not in the room, but just be cool. If she's on the screen, it's okay. It's all right. That was a lovely surprise, and I wish that she would get more work. Aside from my 40-year-long crush on this woman, she's a good actress. She's a phenomenal voice actress, but she's also a really good screen actress. I'm always tripped out by the fact that it'll be decades between shows for her on screen. But that said, when she popped up on the screen, I was like, "Hey, Miss Stanton." but yeah, that aside, I agree. The magic, like you say, Marvel doesn't always do a great job of the magic thing, just in general. Even in the Doctor Strange movies, where it's all grounded in magic, but I think they did a really good job of threading the needle between Marvel magic and Marvel technology and how both of them work. And considering that they don't usually work together, like you say, like in the comics, they just, Doctor Strange decides to enchant Tony Stark's armor and boom, problem solved. But they haven't been able to manage that as well on screen. And I think this is the first time you see a really good, the first time in across book and television series where you get a good melding of the two and they sort of melt together in a sensible way. And the fact that, the fact that both Zelma and her mother are not, they're both like traumatized. Nah, I don't mess with them cats. And Zelma is like, I went to summer camp. I went to summer camp in Carmitage.
And I like that at the very least in terms of like connecting those worlds. I like that they did that aspect of it because in the Power Man and Iron Fist book with David Walker and Sanford Green, one of the cool things was that they were introducing pieces of magic, but like that's outside the norm, right? So like one of the characters that they introduce is a Puerto Rican dude that does magic, but he hates Doctor Strange, and there's a reason why and all that kind of stuff. And I think this at least showed that there's more people in the magic realm than just a Doctor Strange and a Comatage and that kind of stuff. And there's other different types of paths. So that part was cool. The establishing of the magic rules and everything else. I'll leave that to D'Angelo.
I disagree with that, what you guys said about the threading of that technology and magic. I don't think they did it well. And I'll give you an example. It could have been very easy to have Velma, is it Velma or Zelma?
Zelma.
To have Zelma explain, hey, this is a ritual from such and such and such. This is a spell. The spell is called the Iron Blood or something like that. And all it takes is a little drop of your blood and a little prick of your hair, and we'll put it in the soup, and it's going to draw off of your energy. that's all you have to do.
Okay.
It can still be
Yeah.
arcane, but it gives you an idea of how this functions. She did the spell, which still looks like Kamartargian magic.
Yep.
She does the spell, and she says, "I don't know what it's gonna do." And I'm like, "But why? So if
So then
that's
what
the
you doing
case,
it for?
then why are you doing the spell?"
Fair point. I did
What-
react to that. Yeah.
What benefit is it to Riri for her to put this sorcery into her suit if she doesn't even have a single idea of what it's going to do? If you, like I said, if you had just said, "Hey, this is a spell. This spell is called such and such. I just need a drop of your blood, a little bit of your hair, and a little piece of the iron plate, and as a result of this spell, you will be connected both on a spiritual and physical level to the suit itself, and it will enhance the power and things like
And
that,
protect you from the craziness that the hood is going to do. Right.
Yeah, from magical energies. But the price is that it will siphon your life energy a little bit at a time,
Kind of like
slowly.
the Batman suit.
Yeah, kind of like you talking about Hellbat.
The Hellbat armor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. But even if you don't go that extreme, it's just more so. That's why I disagree, because there's room to be specific, to add the rules, and also leave mystery, because the magic can't be the best description of magic comes from George R. R. Martin, which is magic is like holding a sword without a hilt, or using a sword without a hilt. You're going to do some damage, but you're going to look at your pawns and see that you've like there's wounds there left behind. So that was a little bit.
You don't feel
that's
like
where I'm saying they need to move beyond that.
You don't feel like the whole there's an exchange there. It's transactional. Like her explanation that it's going to cost you something. I just don't know what it's going to take from you, kind of thing.
Well, we saw what it took. It took the AI,
right? But But what I'm saying is, in her not knowing what it was going to do, I felt like she explained that. In it, you know, I don't know what it's gonna like. I don't know what it's gonna do in terms of what it's gonna take from you. Like we saw what it took immediately, but she explained to her when we do this is gonna cost you something. I just don't know what it is, and you know, Riri just kind of blew through. It was like, yeah, just go ahead.
She explained that. She did not say what the spell does.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I got you.
And I was going to say that part. The
Any
part
sorcerer should know what their spells do. It's just like like you know, if you're a scientist and you are a chemist, if you mix this and this and this, this is the result. It's the same thing with sorcery. If you know, if you're performing the spell, otherwise, and this just shows there's a lapse in logic when it comes to this stuff in the writing, because Riri is too intelligent to just go along with that. Even though she doesn't understand magic, and because she doesn't understand magic, whoa, you mean to tell me you can't say what this spell is going to do to my suit? This spell could literally eat me alive, cause the suit to disintegrate me. So without that kind of back and forth, or you know, or Cree Summer character not coming in and say, hey, you know, I know you got this, but let me explain how this works.
I was expecting that.
Yeah.
I will agree.
This spell is dangerous, so let me perform the spell, and I'll make sure that I take on all of the risk, and you two will be fine. Like that's how you treat magic.
Yeah, and to that credit, that's the thing. Like you don't get a sense of what the spell. All you know is Riri's suit got some magic on it, and then when she fights the hood, something happens that helps her with that, but you don't know exactly what. And I think that lack of one line of dialogue is a little bit, it makes it almost like it doesn't really help either. Like she could have just made the suit and went to go fight the hood. Like why does she need to have magic on it as well? And I think that was a part where the Marvel logic doesn't really connect. And I think like with all things Marvel and magic, the lack of explanation is the part that messes them up, because they just don't set those rules up, right? They did set up the rules of talking about, hey, magic is a exchange. You have to give up something to get it. Yes, cool. But like you said, if they would have actually just said, hey, this suit is going to protect you from these three things, boom, 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 but not this one thing. Just let you know this one thing's not going to protect you, but these three things are. That at least would give us a sense of why there's a spell there. But instead, it was kind of like,
does she have the dark hold? Like, does she get a hold of the dark hold? Like at first, I thought maybe that was going to be they're going to introduce a new grimoire or something like that, and she's going to use that book to use to do a great spell or perform some magic, and they keep changing it. When Doctor Strange first debuted, the first film, they established that it's not really magic in the way that of sorcery or supernatural. That is, it's mysticism tied to celestial energies that they're drawing from. That was how they established magic. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Magic of Madness now brings in witchcraft. So they're ignoring their own rules about where magic comes from. Now all of a sudden you got hexes and curses and things like that. Then you got Agatha all along. So now, are the sorcerers of Carmitage stupid, or did they just not know? Like, was the Sorcerer Supreme an idiot? Like, how do you, all these books and schools of magic and sorcery out there, and the person who's supposed to be the most knowledgeable, the most in command of these arts, only believes that they're drawing their power from celestial forces? So they keep changing it, and there's no moment where it's solidified and they stick to it, and that's why it's not working.
Fair point.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And with all of those like mixed messages of magic, adding them into the Riri story just didn't really make sense as much, right? So it gave the Hood as he's a bad, but I didn't feel like he was the big bad, And even Mephisto being there, which was cool, but he wasn't even the big bad. He was kind of in the shadows, manipulating things, which is kind of cool. And then Han Solo was killing it. Like, again, I personally like the Han Solo movie. It took me 13 minutes to accept him as Han Solo. Now I was in. So him showing up, I was like, oh, dude, I like this. You're trying to get away from your father's thing. Got some motivations. You trust this random black kid that you're like, all right, black kid, you spark something in me, and then you burn me, bitch. I hate you, and now I have a reason why I don't like you.
Speaking of that, I was confused at first. I understood the Ezekiel Stane thing, the changing the name, but to the rest of the world, Obadiah Stane did not die the way he died in Iron Man. They think he died in a plane crash. So I was confused as to why is his name so tarnished? Why is he hiding? I get it if it were the case that, Obadiah Stane turned out to be this monster criminal, which he was, but they covered it up.
Yeah, only he knew that.
Only he knew that. So why was he hiding? He didn't do anything.
Yeah,
and as far as the rest of the world knows, he didn't do anything.
I hadn't considered that.
He's just a regular. Yeah, he's just a regular rich white boy. Like, there was no reason for him to do that.
When they found the weapons and the thing at with John's body, the bionic, okay, now you in some stuff, but according to the rest of the world, you are the son and heir of one of America's most beloved tycoons who died tragically in a plane crash. Like, why are you changing? The only reason you would change your name is you don't want the attention. That's it, which I get. And
that was part of it for him, but the rest of it wasn't firmly established.
It didn't line up. It was like he was hiding because his dad is a criminal and he didn't want.
And only he knew that. Yeah.
Yeah. And only he knew that. And Tony knew it.
And also too, with that level of money.
Did Tony just go to him and say, look, we're going to tell the rest
of
the world
your dad's an asshole.
But the rest of the world is going to think that he's a cool dude. But I just want you to know that he died trying to kill me, and
I had killed him.
And I killed him. And you learned that's for you to know.
Right.
And everybody else, they don't know that.
And also too, like with that level of money, even if he did get caught, he would still have been that name. Like the name is a persona, right? Because he has a level of money that I can change all my stuff, my documents, my fingerprints, da. So even if I did get caught up in the database, it'd either A, get a flag, my richness would cover me, or B, I would just have my assumed name, and then I could disappear and go back to my real name. But so there was some Marvel logic in that.
I love how
anything happened.
I love how we smoothly transitioned into the negatives without even announcing it.
Hey man, I would like to point out that some of us here are veteran podcast people, and we can do this
very clearly. some of us, not
But
all of us. No.
so going back to Ironheart in general, I think like I like the like everyone said, I enjoyed the cast. I thought the cast was really cool. I think that the one part that was annoying to me was just like that hero's journey part. I think she, like there's a bunch of nerdy white dudes who's like, oh, she's too great at everything and blah 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 blah. Basically, the Rey factor from Star Wars, the newer Star Wars stuff, where she's just great at everything.
Get
right?
that at all with her.
No.
Exactly, and that's the part I was about to say, right? So, I think so. The part that I actually saw to me was that one, yeah, she's super smart, super reckless, but again, going back to what we're talking about, the hero's journey, I still didn't feel like a moment where like she turned a corner as I'm going to be a superhero. It was like there was a lot of just self-driven type of stuff, and she was rejecting everyone around her, which is, if you're a super genius like a Tony Stark or any one of those, they always do that thing.
And
that's
you're grieving.
that always happens. Yeah, and you're grieving as well. And that's why I think, to me, from a negative standpoint, the whole show was like her grieving her best friend. So then, and coming to terms with it. And then that's why the ending didn't have a good payoff to me. Like, oh, you grieved your friend through all this time. And then all of a sudden the devil comes up and pops up and on some like, yo, man, give your best friend back. Just give me your soul. And you're like, cool. And I felt like it felt too quick to me. For me personally, like
what I said to D, right after I watched that, I was like, she asked a lot of really interrogative questions that nobody else asked Mephisto when he made when he presents the Faustian bargain. And it just seemed like, A, for someone as smart as she is, B, for someone who's asking the questions she asks, to go ahead and then be like, oh, okay, no problem. And not really, and for the question,
she could have recreated Natalie's. And
well, I think they established that she couldn't for reasons. But
okay, Marvel logic.
My thing was, she asked really interrogative questions, right? And it seemed like she wasn't falling for the okie doke that he was presenting. And even his pivot on listen, all cards on the table, this is what I'm presenting. And she was still cutting through through all of his BS right up until the end, where he's like, it'll cost you something, but you won't even miss it. I'm sorry, you a kid from the hood in Chicago, and you're one of the smartest human beings on the planet, and that slipped by you? Stop it. All right, man, stop it.
Yeah, right moment.
Yeah, she also saw what he did to what that deal did to Hood. And so
come on,
that's why it's problematic, and that's why I'm saying you have to allow her to be a superhero at some point, where she sees that immediately, which she was doing, and she rejects it. I was expecting her to reject it and just be like, look, you're gonna have to find somebody else.
Yeah.
And walk away.
And it could have set up, Mephisto on some, I'll get you next time, you do-gooder. Easy money.
100%.
If he's targeting her, then he's now a long-term villain. He's gonna pop up and pull like what was it in the comics where Mephisto pops up on Peter Parker after Aunt May has had. Yep. It would have been easy money, because now I'm presenting you where I'm upping the ante. I present you with an opportunity for you to have your friend back. You say no. I'm gonna see you on that. Don't you worry. I'll be right back. And I got another. I'm gonna keep watching you.
Exactly.
There's gonna be something else that pops up that you're gonna want that you can't say no to me for. And he pops back up in season 2, like, hey kid, remember me? Hey, that thing that you're about to lose, I can make you not lose it. And her mother could get into it. God forbid they kill off her mother. But,
there's not going to be a season 2. That was a mini series. So like straight up. Unless they decide to announce it, then that was it. Or, it'll be in the future movie.
I didn't realize that. I thought they were. I thought it was TV series like everything else that they were planning, that they've been doing, planning to do a season 2.
But I also agree with that,
announced
because
anything, and it also says the date that
limited
the
series
was released is the final date.
That's disappointing.
Yeah,
but,
and so that
I feel like there's enough meat on the bone.
And that was my thing too, where it's like, Mephisto could have been set up as the quote unquote big bad, right? Like her rejecting him there could have been like exactly what you said. Mom's dies, Mephisto pops up. Sup, kid? What's going on? And that would have easily made sense, because now by that time that thing happened, she's now gone through a whole arc of her being a hero and pops back up. And so the brand new day situation, and for folks that don't know from the comic books, basically what ends up happening is Peter Parker, Aunt May gets killed, and Peter Parker is distraught. Mephisto pops up. He's like, "Look, I can bring her back, but it's going to cost you something." And then Peter's like, "I'll do anything, yada yada yada." He's like, "Are you sure?" And he basically tells him, like, "Look, Aunt May can come back, but you and MJ kaput. She don't remember you. You never were married. I'm going to show you your whole life with MJ. Here's your kid. Here's your other kid. Here's your future. If you say no to this, all that goes away, and you got to start from fresh. But you get Aunt May back." And that was the whole brand new day, which in the comics actually was really dope. Like, I mean, that was actually a pretty crazy turning point. And for Spider-Man goes through ups and downs, but that was a really good use of Mephisto in that situation where he's like, "Hey, I'm going to give you what you want. Here's Aunt May back. But now MJ has no idea who you are, and you've lost that whole relationship you've ever had. And you've also lost your future children and everything else. I'm going to let you keep that in your brain, but you don't get you, bitch. No one else knows it but you." And that shows the level of deviousness that Mephisto has, also shows the level of power he has, because he can bring someone back from the dead, but also shows that he's with that level. And I think like that would have been a cooler part to understand of how devious he is and how in that realm, as opposed to what we got this time, where it's like, that's the one part I did like Mephisto in the Hood. And I like how like that kind of played, that worked out pretty well in terms of like, he's just a too-big criminal. Here's a Hood. And that's pretty much the comics too. He's a too-big criminal. He gets offered the Hood, becomes a crime lord essentially, but there's trade-offs to it, right? He becomes more of a monster, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And I thought that journey was cool, but I just didn't feel like the Hood was like the big bad. I just thought he was like a mini bad, if you want to put it that way.
I'd like to apologize to a longtime listener and friend of the pod, homie Chester, hated Brand New Day. The mere mention of Brand New Day triggers that man to degrees that I rarely see in comic book readers. I'm very sorry, but the comparison that we're making is apt, and we'll jump off this topic as quickly as humanly possible, or stay in it to torture you. Either one, I don't know. But yeah, proceed.
Yeah.
Proceed.
But yeah, I would say, and so then the other aspect of it, to finish out the rest of it, was we can talk a little bit about cultural relevance and like kind of like the quote unquote controversy, right? So what everyone knows, it's a bunch of comic nerds, a lot of them are white, a lot of them are racist, and they reviewed the bomb the hell out of this prior to it coming out. And again, black, and you can pick and choose what parts that they hated. Basically, she's black and she's a woman and she's like super smart. All three of these things triggered all these dudes.
God forbid.
The review bomb and everything else was just hella dumb. And it's like, I started to watch a couple of the reviews of it, and like very quickly within the first 5 minutes, I can tell where this was going automatically. And I didn't need to watch the rest of the hour-long treatise of it, as opposed to like, there's a lot of negatives in this you could do, from plot to story to casting and all that kind of stuff. If you just did that, I'd be with you. But you're just like, it's a black woman, she's super smart. Why is she smart? Like, come on, bro. Like, and it was such a wild thing that like, that was the thing that they latched onto. And the other aspect of it, which kind of goes on the cultural aspect of it, was almost, and we had the same conversation about Sinners, where culturally black folks in general will love this piece of art, but then they don't put a critical eye to it. And they don't put a critical eye to it because, black people, representation, let's go. That's awesome. But we always get into this mode where it's like, hey man, just because it's black doesn't mean it's amazing. Like there is things that quibble about it. There's things that it could make better, this and that. And those are fair critiques. But at the same time, just because I don't like it doesn't mean I'm hating. I just don't like it because I don't like it, as an aspect of it. And so I think sometimes that part gets kind of conflated a lot, where like everyone in the cultural zeitgeist is like, yes, this is amazing. Black representation, black girl magic, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, cool. But at the same time, we also can be like, yo, dog,
qualitatively,
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, qualitatively, does this meet the bar? Does this come under it? Does it meet it? Is it over it? And that's a fair, that's a fair measurement to take. But that's a measurement that you should take with all art. I feel like that's something. Again, as you say, the idea that someone black is in it, we got to support it. Listen, we got to support good art, because otherwise you're going to get homeboys in outer space and people are going to be, and the industry I wouldn't say has turned a corner, but is turning a corner where now they're like, oh, we can make money off of this. Oh, and if we just market it the way we market everything else, because before that, in prior years and prior releases, the thing was, oh, this is a great idea, but we have no idea how to market it to Black people. Stupid. You just market it like you market anything else. Like you know how to market all kind of crap. You know how to market Mountain Dew to Black folk during the NBA All-Star game. You know how to market a friggin' movie. Come on, man. But that's been utter nonsense. But that aside,
point of a contention.
Yes.
I will not take any slander on Homeboys in Outer Space. It's a classic.
Yes, you will.
It's a very
yes, you will. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't even play like that. I will fight you the next time I see you. Don't do that.
For our listeners, we want to do a mini series on bad stuff that we like, and that's gonna be my Homeboys in Outer Space. So bad, it's entertaining. I love it with the irony that it is, and I say it's bad because it's bad from everything from the casting to the sets to the writing to the how did this even get green lit? And this is why I like it. It's so bad. That's why I like it. But anyways, I digress. That will be in a future episode.
You making me want to
let
fight
everybody
you.
know. Homeboys in Outer Space.
Off rip, you making me want to fight you right now. Just ball up a fist and rock you one time.
Right. But you're 100% correct. I think that's and I think, again, going back to what we said for, just because I don't like it doesn't mean I'm hating. And I think that those are those types of things. Like, this is a great example. Sinners is another one too, where, the vast majority of people really enjoy it, but we could easily pick it apart from a quality level and a narrative level in those aspects.
And you're not saying you didn't like Ironheart or Sinners.
Yes.
The whole point is it's a critique. There are things that we liked about it. There are things that we didn't like about it. There are things that were great. There are things that were decent, and there were things that could have been better. And then there are things that were just out and out bad. And all of those things go into the critique. I mean, we're not trained film critics, but we know television and we know film. We definitely know television. We've all worked in television, and we know film. It's adjacent to television, and many of the same rules in storytelling apply. The format may be different, but we know it, and we know it well enough to be like, okay, this worked, this didn't. Why did they do this? That was stupid. Wow, they did this. This was awesome. And, I think it's a fair assessment of whatever's being presented. And to be honest, we're also consumers at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So if you're putting it out there for us to consume your art, we're going to have things to say about it. And some of it's going to be good. Some of it's not going to be good. So, and that is part of the assessment. That's part of the critique. That's part of dissecting. There's very few people that watch something, even as little kids. You're like, yo, did you see the Incredible Hulk last night? The part where he did this, that, and the other was great. I didn't like the part where he did this, that, and the other. That's us. We're kids. We're still kids watching these things. We're equipped with a certain amount of discernment because we've been watching this stuff all our lives, and you develop vocabulary around being able to dissect these things. And we worked in the industry, so there's an extra layer of to our eye to these things, and so we decided to do a podcast and talk about it. Plain and simple. Would you not agree?
Yeah,
is that not accurate?
I didn't expect you to break down our biography of why we
Neither did I.
Why we do the whole thing. I mean, I didn't.
Neither did I.
I didn't think it needed an explanation, but apparently it did.
Pretty good.
Thank you, Josh.
Pretty good, sir.
A good,
not bad.
Yeah, the description. Although, there are some trained reviewers on this podcast who have gone through that.
Fair point. My bad.
So, I don't wear this shirt for no reason with all of the discoloration in it.
You gonna do gang signs and you go?
Nah, none of that.
Yep.
None of that. I don't want to reread coming out.
You, son.
but and like you said, to say all that is like that aspect of it, right? And I think that as long as more Black people create more art that's on a global scale and on a level, like there should be good levels of critiques to make sure that we can hold ourselves accountable so we can get better, right? Like
Right.
we want like we want Ironheart to get better. Like there's parts of it that we like, there's parts that we didn't like, and if it did get something that was like extended or like that character goes into other parts of the MCU, we want them to get better. We're not hoping for a downfall or anything like that. Well, besides D'Angelo, he wants to follow the fall of humanity, but in general, like
yeah, well, before that happens, while we're still watching movies and TV, we want it to get better.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even. I think when you have good quality, it makes those stupid criticisms fall away. You know, Ironheart is what it is. It's good. It doesn't deserve the premature hate that it's gotten, and it doesn't deserve hate even after its debut and rap. Saying that, pointing out some of the things that were not done or were done in a less graceful way. It's not hating or not saying that you like it or love it. It's just saying this is what it is. This is what occurred. We noticed it. It may bother some, may not. You know, that's where you come to us for to listen to see if you should waste your time with it or not. And this is one that I think that people should consider investing their time in because it's not a lot of time, and it's a fun enough show. It's not too violent for those people who don't really like the sort of uber violence of blood and gnash and gore and everything. It's not that, you know, it has just the amount of relevant violence to entice those who like the superhero action stuff. So yeah, I think going forward,
and I think
stuff like Ironheart and Sinners, you know, we'll talk about the writing, but I want Ryan Coogler to get partner with a writer so that the next time he makes an attempt at that, it's even better than just, we can say, oh, it was great cinematography and it was also an amazing script.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like that's a good place to leave it because it shows that like there is hope and we're not like the Debbie Downers in that aspect of it. But at the same time, we're not going to give it a pass because it's blackity black. And I think like that's the part that we want to always make sure that we like, you know, when it's dope, it's dope. And when it's good, it's good. And if it's fine, but black, we're like, all right, I'm glad people like it. I'm glad you experienced it. I'm glad that you are entertained, you know, and I think I had a Sinners, and we always bring this up, but I brought the Sinners talk recently, and someone was like, "Yeah, I heard your Sinners podcast." I was like, "Oh, thanks, man." They're like, "No. I disagree with everything you guys said." And I told them, I was like, "And that is your right,
right?" But that's fine. That's part of the discourse.
Yep.
I didn't agree with everything you guys had to say about Sinners. There were things that you guys didn't like that I thoroughly enjoyed and was able to justify. Not that I had to, but I was able to justify my what I felt about it and what I enjoyed about it. And same with this. I didn't agree with. There's things that you guys brought me around to that I thought was dope that you guys were like, but even with that,
and we're
it's
talking
still
about
enjoyable.
Execution. Yeah. It comes. Yep. We're squibbling over execution. Like, it's creative is subjective. Execution usually is not, but at the same time, execution doesn't mean bad in one way. It's just a matter of how this particular group of creatives decide to tell that story. Exactly. I won't forgive Slug getting out of that wreck and just walking away. That's just Marvel logic right there.
That doesn't make no damn sense. That makes
not
no
even
damn
a broken heel,
honestly, scratch or anything.
Yeah, not even a broken nail. Like, in my mind, I'm like, yo, they like, if Slug would have got fucked up, I'd have been like, oh, okay. Or if Slug would have died, that would have actually made Riri even more like, oh shit, more character building.
All Slug had to do was they just needed to hold their arm or you know, like do this or something like that, and they still could have got the joke in where Riri is like, come on, and Slug is like, no, thank you, and walks and limps away. Just little small things like that. It didn't take anything. You didn't even need makeup to have Slug limp away to show that they literally were in the truck that got flipped over and the grill smashed in all the way up to the seats. You know, at best, your ribs is cracked and your legs are broken.
100%.
You know.
Yeah,
I wanted
it said
to-
it was coming out like I'm fine.
Go ahead, Cam. I wanted
it came out like I'm fine. Go ahead.
I wanted to do a quick shout out to Dominic Thorne, who is a fellow Trinidadian, who was also honored with the Diaspora Creative Excellence Award for her contribution to the arts and as an ambassador of Caribbean culture. Boom.
Nice.
Sweet. Nice.
Oh, that's even better. That's even dope.
She got a bright road ahead of her, and that's good.
100%. And on that, we shall leave on a positive. Yeah, and we will leave on a positive note because I like that. That's where we will leave it at. Once again, thanks for everybody listening, us rant about this randomness, and we appreciate that you guys listen. Like, subscribe, and all the things. I got to make sure I said that at the beginning earlier. But yes, this is Blerdlines, and we out.
Later.